The quantum communication array hummed with a low, almost imperceptible vibration that Maya Rodriguez had learned to interpret as something between anticipation and dread. 17 hours, 23 minutes, and 46 seconds. That's how long her team had been dissecting the most enigmatic transmission she'd ever encountered. Outside the reinforced windows of Horizon Station, the endless black of deep space pressed against the transparent alloy, a constant reminder of the infinite unknown. Maya's fingers danced across holographic interfaces, her neural implants working in perfect synchronization with the station's advanced decryption systems. Each layer of the signal was like an intricate puzzle box designed to frustrate and challenge anyone attempting to unravel its secrets. "Dr. Yamamoto," she called, not turning from the cascading streams of quantum data. "Run another quantum coherence analysis. Something's not adding up." Dr. Hiroshi Yamamoto, a brilliant xenolinguistics expert with more academic awards than most research stations could claim, looked up from his workstation. His augmented eyes, a delicate mesh of biological and synthetic components, reflected the dancing light of 1,000 encrypted algorithms. "I've run the analysis 17 times, Captain. Each iteration reveals something new, but nothing that makes complete sense." The transmission had arrived like a ghost, a burst of quantum-encoded data that should have been impossible to receive. Standard long-range communication protocols suggested it was either a massive system error or something far more intriguing. Most of her colleagues at the Interstellar Communication Authority would have dismissed it immediately. Hell, they had dismissed it. But Maya Rodriguez wasn't most people. Her reputation preceded her. A veteran of the Proxima conflict, she'd made a name for herself by seeing patterns where others saw only chaos. Her military record was a mix of commendations and reprimands. Brilliant tactical insights coupled with an absolute disregard for bureaucratic nonsense. When the official channels had written off the Zarkov cluster as a total loss, she kept listening. "There," Yamamoto suddenly exclaimed, his voice cutting through the low hum of machinery. "Do you see it?" Maya leaned in. Embedded within the quantum signal was a mathematical sequence that defied conventional communication protocols. It wasn't just a message, it was a challenge. Nested within the data were coordinate sets, spectral analysis of unknown star systems, and fragments of what appeared to be tactical information about the Krell Imperium's military deployments. "This isn't just a distress signal," Maya muttered, more to herself than to Yamamoto. "This is an invitation." The implications were staggering. The Zarkov cluster had been considered a dead zone for nearly a decade. Multiple advanced civilizations had fallen to the Krell's systematic conquest, with no survivors believed to remain. Official records showed nothing but destruction, planet after planet reduced to radioactive wastelands, entire species wiped from galactic charts. But this transmission suggested otherwise. "We need to verify the data's origin," Yamamoto said, his voice carrying a mix of scientific excitement and professional caution. "The quantum signature is unlike anything in our databases." Maya's neural implants were already running cross-references, pulling data from classified military archives, xenobiological research databases, and her own extensive personal network of contacts. Each search returned fragmented results that hinted at something extraordinary. A small alert pinged on her neural display. Incoming message from her old military contact, Admiral Elena Rodriguez. No relation, but a trusted ally. The message was brief. "Whatever you found, be careful. Some secrets are buried for a reason." Maya allowed herself a small smile. Careful had never been her strongest suit. "Prep the communication reconstruction algorithms," she instructed Yamamoto. "We're going to crack this transmission wide open." As the station's systems hummed to life, processing the most complex piece of communication technology they'd ever encountered, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the precipice of something monumental. This wasn't just a message from a forgotten conflict. This was an invitation to a war that the rest of the galaxy had given up on. And Maya Rodriguez was never one to turn down an impossible challenge. The dying whisper from the Zarkov cluster was about to become a roar. The recruitment briefing looked nothing like any military assembly in galactic history. Spread across a circular chamber in the depths of an abandoned research facility, the potential team members regarded each other with a mixture of suspicion, curiosity, and barely contained excitement. Kai Chen stood apart from the others, his fingers absently tracing the holographic schematics of an experimental quantum drive that had gotten him discharged from the Terran Engineering Corps. Thin and wiry, with augmented eyes that flickered between multiple spectral ranges, he looked more like a theoretical physicist than a potential mission specialist, which in many ways he was. To his left, Dr. Anika Patil cleaned a set of xenobiological analysis tools with surgical precision. Her reputation preceded her, a weapons specialist who saw biological systems as the ultimate technology, capable of adaptation and warfare beyond any mechanical construct. The Interstellar Science Council had branded her work too dangerous, which was precisely why Maya Rodriguez wanted her. Marcus Williams occupied the far corner of the room, a veteran so heavily augmented that the line between human and machine blurred into insignificance. He moved with a fluid grace that belied the complex neural networks integrated into his physiology. Cybernetic implants traced silver patterns across skin that was more synthetic than organic, a testament to survival and modification. Captain Maya Rodriguez entered the room, and the ambient conversation died instantly. "I'm not here to give you a recruitment speech," she began, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had seen the worst the galaxy could offer. "I'm here to offer you a chance to do something the entire galactic community has written off as impossible." A holographic display flickered to life, showing the fragmented transmission from the Zarkov cluster. Coordinates, tactical data, and encrypted messages danced in the air, a complex tapestry of information that defied conventional understanding. This transmission suggests that something, or someone, is still fighting in a conflict everyone believes is long over, Maya continued. The Krell Imperium doesn't leave survivors. They don't do mercy. They consume entire civilizations and move on. Kai Chen stepped forward, his augmented eyes analyzing the holographic data with inhuman speed. "The quantum encryption is unlike anything I've ever seen. This isn't just a message. It's a complex mathematical challenge." Dr. Patil leaned in, her medical scanner already interfacing with the holographic display. "These biological markers, they're from at least 6 different species, compressed into a single transmission that should be impossible to send." Marcus remained silent, but a subtle neural interface activated, running parallel analyses that complemented the other's observations. Maya allowed herself a slight smile. These were not traditional soldiers or researchers. They were outcasts, brilliant minds rejected by systems too rigid to understand their potential. "Our mission is unauthorized," she stated bluntly. "We'll be using an experimental vessel, funded through channels that don't officially exist. The Interstellar Authority will consider this a rogue operation. There's no extraction plan, no support team. We go in, we investigate, and we do whatever is necessary to understand what's happening in the Zarkov cluster." The room grew thick with tension. This wasn't a standard rescue mission. This was something else entirely. "Why us?" Marcus spoke for the first time, his voice a perfect blend of synthetic and organic tones. Maya pulled up a series of personnel files, each marked with various disciplinary actions, experimental research notes, and mission reports that had been summarily dismissed. "Because the official channels failed. Because each of you sees possibilities where others see dead ends." Kai Chen laughed, a sharp sound of genuine amusement. "You're talking about a suicide mission, and you've assembled the most likely group of people who would actually consider it." Dr. Patil nodded, her eyes never leaving the holographic transmission. "The scientific potential alone is worth the risk." The decision was made not with words, but with a shared understanding. These were not traditional heroes. They were survivors, innovators, people who had been told impossible too many times to take the word seriously. Maya activated a final holographic display, the schematics of their vessel, the Renegade Wing, an experimental craft that broke every conventional design principle, built from salvage technology and pure human audacity. "We leave in 48 hours, she announced. "Pack light. Where we're going, conventional rules don't apply." The outlaw expedition was about to begin. The Renegade Wing was not a ship. It was a technological fever dream given physical form. Docked in the deepest recesses of an abandoned orbital platform, the vessel defied every known principle of spacecraft design. Its hull shimmered with adaptive metamaterials that could shift molecular structure on microsecond timescales. Where traditional ships had rigid lines and predictable geometries, the Renegade Wing looked like something between a living organism and a quantum mathematical equation. Kai Chen ran his augmented hands along the ship's primary quantum interface, his fingers dancing across holographic controls that seemed to breathe and pulse with an almost sentient responsiveness. "Most ships are built to travel through space," he muttered to Dr. Patel. "This one is designed to become space." The ship's core was a marvel of impossible engineering. At its heart sat a quantum drive that had been officially declared too dangerous for practical use by no less than 17 interstellar research committees. It didn't just warp space-time, it negotiated with it, finding pathways that conventional physics would have deemed pure fantasy. Dr. Annika Patel was calibrating the biological integration systems, a network of adaptive living components that blurred the line between technology and organic life. Microscopic nanoorganisms embedded in the ship's systems could reconfigure entire subsystems in response to environmental threats, healing damage and adapting to conditions that would obliterate a conventional spacecraft. 63% of this technology isn't just classified, Marcus Williams observed from the primary navigation hub. It's legally non-existent. His neural interfaces were already merging with the ship's quantum computational matrix, creating a symbiotic relationship between human augmentation and machine intelligence. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched her team with a mixture of pride and anticipation. They weren't just preparing a ship, they were preparing a weapon of last resort, a technological middle finger to every limitation the universe had tried to impose. The final preparations were a dance of controlled chaos. Each team member moved with a precision that suggested years of collaborative work, though they had only met days before. Kai's quantum engineering interfaced seamlessly with Marcus's tactical augmentations. Dr. Patel's biological systems analysis complemented the ship's adaptive technologies in ways that defied traditional understanding. Quantum camouflage at 78%. Kai announced, his augmented eyes tracking multiple computational streams simultaneously. "We're not just avoiding detection. We're going to make the Krell's sensor networks question their own existence." The ship's stealth capabilities were revolutionary. Traditional cloaking involved hiding from sensors. The Renegade Wing system was far more sophisticated. It would actively rewrite the very data streams that might detect it, creating false narratives and impossible sensor readings. Dr. Patel brought up a holographic display of their planned approach to the Zharkov cluster. "The standard approach would be suicide," she explained. Multiple projected flight paths danced in the air, each one more impossible than the last. "We're going to use the cluster's own gravitational anomalies as both shield and highway." Marcus's augmented systems began running predictive models. Millions of potential scenarios computed in milliseconds, finding the most improbable, and therefore least predictable, route through one of the most dangerous regions of known space. "We have a 0.03% margin of survival using conventional tactics," he reported matter-of-factly, "which means we're operating well within acceptable parameters." Maya couldn't help but laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had spent a career being told what was impossible. The final system check was nothing like a traditional spacecraft launch. There were no countdown sequences, no rigid protocols. The Renegade Wing seemed to come alive, its systems merging with the crew's collective intention. Quantum entanglement drives hummed with a sound that was more felt than heard, a vibration that suggested the ship was negotiating its very existence with the fabric of space-time. "All systems are beyond optimal," Kai reported, a hint of wonder in his augmented voice. We're ready to do something monumentally stupid. As the ship's quantum drive began to activate, the very air around them seemed to bend and twist. They weren't just preparing to travel through space. They were preparing to rewrite the fundamental rules of interstellar travel. The impossible approach was about to begin. The renegade wing materialized at the edge of the Zarkov cluster like a quantum ghost, its adaptive hull shimmering between existence and non-existence. The space around them was a graveyard. Planetary fragments, destroyed space stations, and the metallic corpses of countless ships stretched out in a silent testament to the Krell Imperium's ruthless conquest. Radiation levels are off the charts, Dr. Annika Patul reported, her biological scanning systems working overtime. But there's something else. These radiation patterns, they're not random destruction. They're a message. Marcus Williams' augmented vision cut through the cosmic debris, parsing information at speeds that would have overwhelmed an unmodified human brain. Detecting multiple subsurface energy signatures. Something's alive down there. Epsilon 9, once a thriving multi-species colony world, now looked like a shattered marble. Its surface was a patchwork of radioactive wastelands and geological scars, testament to the Krell's systematic destruction. But beneath that dead exterior, something was definitely moving. Quantum communication array is picking up multiple encrypted signals, Kai Chen announced, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. They're using a communication method I've never seen before. It's like they're talking through the planet itself. Captain Maya Rodriguez felt the tension in the ship. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. This was first contact with a survival scenario beyond anything in human experience. A sudden burst of energy erupted from the planet's surface, a signal so complex that it momentarily overwhelmed the Renegade Wing's advanced sensors. When the systems stabilized, they revealed something impossible. Underground networks stretched across the entire planet. Not just tunnels, but a living, breathing ecosystem of survival. Multiple species had created a subterranean civilization that was part refuge, part war machine. Adaptive habitats constructed from the remnants of destroyed ships. Communication networks that used the planet's geological structure as a communication medium. Defense systems that blended biological and technological components. They're not just surviving, Dr. Patel breathed, her analysis systems working frantically. They're evolving. 6 distinct species were represented in this underground network. The Vornak, silicon-based lifeforms known for their crystalline infrastructure. The Liquid Collective, a species that existed as a complex fluid intelligence. Mechanical beings from the Gear Nexus. Photonic entities that existed as pure energy. Quantum-entangled beings from the Resonance Collective. And most surprisingly, remnants of several human colonies that had been presumed destroyed. Each group had developed unique survival strategies. The Vornak had integrated their crystalline biology with the planet's geological structures, creating living defense networks. The Liquid Collective had become one with the planet's underground water systems, turning entire aquifer networks into a massive, adaptive intelligence. Marcus isolated a communication fragment. They're not just hiding, he reported. They're preparing for something. Kay's quantum analysis revealed the true complexity of their situation. The entire planet is a single, massive computational system. They've turned planetary destruction into a defensive strategy. The Krell think they've won, but they've actually created the most sophisticated resistance network in galactic history. Maya understood now why the original transmission had been so complex. It wasn't just a distress signal. It was an invitation, a challenge to anyone capable of understanding the depth of their resistance. We're not here to rescue anyone, she realized aloud. We're here because they want us to see what survival really means. A massive energy pulse suddenly erupted from the planet's core. A communication burst so powerful it could have destroyed a conventional ship. The Renegade Wing absorbed and parsed the information, its quantum systems dancing with the planet's own computational network. The message was clear. The war wasn't over. It had just been waiting for the right participants to understand its true nature. Dr. Patel looked up, her eyes reflecting the complex holographic displays. "This isn't a planetary defense network," she said softly. "This is a living weapon." Outside, the broken landscape of Epsilon 9 began to shift. Something was awakening, something that the Krell Imperium had failed to destroy. First Contact was about to become First Revolution. The Krell Imperium's command ship hung in space like a predatory monument, a kilometers-long construct of obsidian black metal and razor-sharp geometric precision. Inside its central command chamber, Fleet Admiral Karaz reviewed the conquest data of the Zharkov cluster with mathematical detachment. Billions of lives reduced to statistical probabilities, entire civilizations compressed into efficiency algorithms. What Karaz didn't realize was that the very act of observing was about to become the weapon used against him. Kai Chen's quantum communication algorithm was nothing short of a work of art, or more accurately, a work of psychological warfare. Instead of traditional signal interception, they were going to rewrite the fundamental way the Krell processed information. "It's not about breaking their communication," Kai explained to the team, holographic displays dancing around him. "It's about making them question the very nature of their perception." Dr. Annika Patel had prepared the biological component of their attack. The liquid collective from Epsilon 9 had provided her with microscopic quantum-entangled organisms that could interface with technological systems in ways no conventional hacking method could achieve. These weren't just infiltration units, they were living information viruses that could reshape computational matrices. Marcus Williams stood at the tactical interface, his augmented systems running millions of predictive scenarios per second. "The Krell operate on a hive-mind computational network," he reported. "Their entire military structure is based on absolute information certainty. We're going to introduce radical uncertainty." The first phase of the attack was subtle. Quantum-encoded signals began to introduce microscopic inconsistencies into the Krell's sensor networks. Navigation systems would show phantom fleet movements. Communication channels would carry fragments of conversations that never happened. Tactical displays would momentarily reveal impossible strategic scenarios. On the Renegade Wing's main display, Captain Maya Rodriguez watched the initial results with a Predator's focus. "We're not trying to destroy them," she explained. "We're trying to make them destroy themselves." The Krell's computational systems began to react in ways their designers never anticipated. Defensive protocols started to conflict with offensive strategies. Fleet movements became erratic, with ships responding to threats that didn't exist. The absolute certainty that defined the Krell military structure began to crack. Dr. Patel's biological infiltration units were the true masterpiece. They didn't just hack systems, they introduced a form of computational doubt. Imagine a virus that didn't just corrupt data, but made the very concept of data reliability questionable. Each Krell system began to develop micro-hesitations, split-second moments of uncertainty that grew exponentially. "We're weaponizing doubt," Kai said, a hint of scientific wonder in his voice. "Pure psychological warfare at a computational level." The Krell Fleet Admiral Karaz began to notice something was wrong. Tactical reports became increasingly fragmented. Sensor systems reported contradictory information. The absolute certainty that had defined the Krell's military superiority was being systematically dismantled. What made the attack truly brilliant was its multilayered approach. It wasn't just a technological assault. It was a philosophical attack on the very way the Krell understood conflict and information. Marcus's augmented systems began to introduce more complex layers of uncertainty. Communication channels would momentarily reveal potential diplomatic alternatives. Tactical displays would flash with impossible scenarios of cooperation and mutual survival. The Krell's rigid computational matrix began to experience something close to cognitive dissonance. "We're not just breaking their systems," Maya observed. "We're breaking their understanding of reality." The Krell fleet began to turn on itself. Ships responding to phantom threats, command structures collapsing under the weight of computational uncertainty. What had been a perfectly organized military machine was becoming a confused, self-destructive network. Dr. Patel watched the computational dissolution with a scientist's clinical detachment. Doubt, she said softly, is the most powerful weapon in any conflict. As the Krell fleet's coherence began to collapse, the team on the Renegade wing understood they had done something unprecedented. They hadn't just attacked a military system. They had introduced a new paradigm of conflict, one where perception itself became the battlefield. The psychological weapon was working, and the Krell would never see it coming. The underground command center of Epsilon 9 was a cacophony of tension. Representatives from 6 different species sat around a circular platform that pulsed with adaptive holographic interfaces, each delegation eyeing the others with a mixture of desperation and deep-seated mistrust. The Vornak delegation, crystalline beings that looked like living sculptures of translucent silicon, stood rigidly on one side. Their representative, Senior Resonance Coordinator Exnal, projected an aura of cold mathematical precision. To their left, the Liquid Collective's ambassadorial form rippled and flowed, never maintaining a consistent shape, its communication a complex dance of molecular interactions. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched the proceedings with a practiced eye. Bringing these species together was like attempting to create a unified strategy among predators, forced into an impossibly small cage. We've survived by isolation. The Gear Nexus representative clicked. Its mechanical body a complex arrangement of interlocking metallic components. Cooperation has always been our weakness. Dr. Annika Patel stepped forward, her xenobiological scanners parsing the complex interactions between the species. Each group had developed survival strategies so unique that traditional diplomatic protocols were essentially useless. The photonic entities communicated through light frequencies. The quantum entangled resonance collective existed in a state between information and physical matter. The Krell don't care about your historical conflicts, Maya interjected. They'll destroy every single one of you, individually or collectively. A tense silence followed. The human survivors from the abandoned colonies, a ragged group of perhaps 200 individuals, looked like the least technologically advanced group in the room. Yet they carried a determination that seemed to unsettle the other species. Kai Chen's quantum communication systems began to interface with the room's adaptive interfaces. Multiple translation matrices worked simultaneously, bridging not just language barriers, but fundamental differences in perception and communication. Our initial simulations show a 94.3% probability of mutual destruction if we don't find a unified approach, Marcus Williams reported, his augmented systems running predictive models that danced in the holographic space. The Liquid Collective's ambassador, a constantly shifting form that seemed to exist between liquid and energy states, was the first to speak. Individual survival has been our primary strategy. Collective action is problematic. The hexagonal of the Vornak stepped forward, its crystalline body refracting light in complex geometric patterns. We have technological capabilities that could be weaponized. But trust is not a mathematical equation we can easily solve. Dr. Patel saw the underlying issue immediately. Each species had survived the Krell onslaught through radically different methods. The Vornak had used their crystalline biology to integrate with planetary structures. The Liquid Collective had become virtually undetectable by dispersing through underground water systems. The Gear Nexus had developed modular survival strategies that allowed parts of their civilization to survive even total systemic collapse. We're not asking for complete trust, Maya said, her voice cutting through the diplomatic tension. We're asking for strategic cooperation. The human survivors, led by a weathered woman named Elena Santos, brought something unexpected to the table. They had survived not through advanced technology, but through adaptive human strategies, improvisation, psychological resilience, and an almost irrational refusal to accept defeat. Kai Chen began to demonstrate how their quantum communication technologies could bridge the species' different communication methods. It wasn't just about translation. It was about creating a unified computational matrix that could leverage each species' unique capabilities. Our differences are our strength, Marcus observed, his augmented systems analyzing the complex interactions. The Krell operate on absolute uniformity. We represent something they cannot comprehend. Slowly, reluctantly, a strategy began to take shape. The Vornak's ability to integrate with planetary structures. The liquid collective's undetectable nature. The gear nexus's modular technological adaptability. The photonic entity's information transmission capabilities. The quantum resonance collective's ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously. And at the center of it all, the human capacity for unpredictable innovation. The alliance was fragile, fractured, held together by nothing more than the immediate threat of total extinction. But it was an alliance nonetheless. The battle for the Zharkov cluster defied every known principle of warfare. Krell fleet formations, once a marvel of mathematical precision, now twisted and fragmented like a shattered hologram. Hundreds of ships moved in patterns that contradicted every tactical protocol, a direct result of the psychological warfare unleashed by the Renegade Wings team. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched from the ship's quantum adaptive bridge as the multi-species alliance executed a strategy that was part military operation, part improvisational performance art. The Vornak's crystalline battle platforms emerged from the planet's geological structures like living mountains of razor-sharp silicon. They didn't just attack, they became the battlefield, their molecular structures shifting and adapting with each incoming Krell assault. Entire sections of planetary crust transformed into defensive weapons, geological formations becoming living shield networks. Incoming quantum resonance cascade, Marcus Williams announced, his augmented systems tracking multiple simultaneous threat vectors. The Liquid Collective is preparing full-spectrum molecular disruption. What happened next was beyond traditional combat. The underground water systems of Epsilon 9 came alive. The Liquid Collective, a species that had survived by becoming essentially undetectable, transformed entire planetary aquifers into a massive adaptive weapon system. Molecular structures shifted, water became both shield and weapon, creating computational matrices that could predict and counter Krell attack vectors in microseconds. Kai Chen's quantum communication systems worked in perfect synchronization with the planetary defense network. Each communication wasn't just a message, it was a complex mathematical challenge that further destabilized the Krell's computational systems. We're not just fighting, Dr. Aneka Patel observed, her biological scanning systems working at impossible speeds. We're solving a conflict like it's a multi-dimensional problem. The Gear Nexus contributed a truly bizarre element to the battle. Their modular technological systems could literally reconfigure mid-combat. A defensive platform would suddenly become an offensive weapon. Ships could split, merge, and redistribute computational resources in ways that made traditional military strategy look like children's games. Photonic entities used the battle itself as a communication medium. Light itself became a weapon. Information transmission turned into targeted computational disruption. They didn't just attack Krell systems. They rewrote the very fabric of how those systems understood conflict. The human survivors, led by Elena Santos, provided something the other species couldn't: pure, unpredictable human innovation. They used salvaged Krell technology in ways the original designers could never have anticipated. The communication relay became a weapon. The defensive shield became an information transmission hub. The Krell are experiencing something they've never encountered, Maya said, a hint of dark humor in her voice. Genuine uncertainty. The Quantum Entangled Resonance Collective took the battle to its most abstract level. They didn't just fight in physical space. They fought in probability spaces, creating combat scenarios that existed simultaneously and contradictorily. Krell ships would find themselves in multiple tactical positions at once, their computational systems breaking down under the weight of quantum impossibility. Marcus's predictive models showed the battle's true nature. This isn't a traditional conflict, he reported. It's a multi-dimensional problem-solving exercise. We're not destroying the Krell. We're demonstrating the fundamental limitations of their computational approach to conflict. The Krell fleet began to collapse not from physical damage, but from computational doubt. Ships would suddenly halt mid-maneuver. Entire battle groups would become confused, their rigid tactical matrices unable to process the multi-layered assault. Dr. Patel watched the computational dissolution with scientific fascination. Doubt, she had said earlier, is the most powerful weapon in any conflict. As the battle reached its crescendo, it became clear that this was more than a military engagement. It was a fundamental challenge to how intelligence could approach conflict, survival, and cooperation. The moment of absolute chaos was transforming into something else entirely. A new understanding of conflict was being born. The aftermath of the battle was nothing like any previous conflict in galactic history. Where one would expect devastation, there was transformation. The Zarkov cluster, once considered a graveyard of civilizations, now pulsed with a new kind of existence. Planetary structures that had been weapons became living networks of communication and cooperation. The very fabric of space seemed to have been fundamentally altered. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Renegade Wing, watching as the multi-species alliance began the process of reconstruction, if reconstruction was even the right word for what was happening. Dr. Annika Patel's initial analysis was nothing short of revolutionary. We didn't just win a battle, she explained to the gathered representatives. We've demonstrated a new paradigm of survival and conflict resolution. The Krell Imperium hadn't been destroyed, they had been fundamentally changed. Kai Chen's quantum communication systems had done more than disrupt the Krell's computational networks. They had introduced a form of systemic uncertainty that was reshaping the entire Krell civilization. Reports were already coming in of Krell outposts reassessing their fundamental approach to expansion and conflict. They're experiencing something close to a collective existential crisis, Marcus Williams reported, his augmented systems parsing vast streams of incoming data. Their entire computational matrix is being forced to reconsider the basic assumptions that drove their conquests. The human survivors, led by Elena Santos, brought something uniquely powerful to the emerging alliance. It wasn't just technological capability or tactical genius. It was a fundamental approach to problem-solving that defied traditional limitations. The Vornak's senior resonance coordinator, Degznal, approached Maya, its crystalline form refracting light, in complex patterns that seemed to communicate as much as any verbal language. You have introduced a concept beyond survival, the being communicated. You have shown that adaptation is not just a survival strategy. It is the fundamental nature of intelligence. Each species had contributed something unique to their victory. The Vornak's ability to integrate with planetary structures, the Liquid Collective's adaptive molecular capabilities, the Gear Nexus's modular technological systems, the Photonic Entity's information transmission methods, the Quantum Resonance Collective's probabilistic existence, humanity's unpredictable innovative spirit. The galactic community would never be the same. What had started as a rescue mission had become a fundamental reimagining of interstellar cooperation and conflict resolution. We're creating something that has never existed before, Maya told her team. The Renegade Wings Bridge had become more than a spacecraft command center. It was a symbol of a new approach to existence. Dr. Patel's comprehensive analysis revealed the true depth of their achievement. The psychological and computational assault they had unleashed wasn't just a military strategy. It was a form of interstellar diplomacy that challenged every existing paradigm of conflict. Kai Chen's quantum communication networks were already establishing new forms of interspecies dialogue. Communication was no longer about translation. It was about mutual understanding at a fundamental computational level. Marcus Williams noted the larger implications. We've demonstrated that intelligence is not about computational power or technological superiority, he observed. It's about adaptability, creativity, and the capacity to perceive complex systems from multiple perspectives. The Zarkov cluster was transforming. Planetary structures that had been weapons became living communication networks. The survivors were not just rebuilding. They were creating an entirely new form of civilization. Helena Santos, representing the human survivors, understood the true significance. "We didn't just survive," she told the assembled representatives. "We showed that survival is about more than preservation. It's about transformation." As the Renegade Wing prepared to document this new alliance, Captain Maya Rodriguez reflected on their journey. They had gone from an unauthorized rescue mission to fundamentally changing the nature of interstellar existence. No rescue was expected, but something far more profound had occurred. A new understanding of intelligence, survival, and cooperation was being born.